The show starts with a girl wanting to be a villain character named Alicia from the game she likes to play, but now finds herself reincarnated as a young girl with black hair and golden eyes. She's the only daughter of the powerful William noble family. Just yesterday she was someone else, but now she knows for sure that she's been reborn as a 7-year-old Alicia inside a game. Determined to embrace this new role, Alicia decides that she'll become the greatest villain in history. After getting out of bed, she cheerfully greets her maid with a good morning, which surprises the servant because Alicia never used to do this. Alicia quickly realizes this is because she never used to wake up early or speak kindly to the maid, but she promises herself that she'll change that now. Knowing she has a lot to learn if she really wants to play the part of a villainess, she understands that besides knowledge, she needs to become physically strong too. With this in mind, she goes to find her older brother, William Albert, and greets him, surprising her family with her new behavior. Albert points out that it's strange to see her awake so early, but Alicia asks him to teach her sword fighting so she can get stronger. This request surprises not only Albert, but also their other 2 brothers, who think it's probably just another one of Alicia's fleeting interests. But Albert agrees on one condition. She has to prove her strength first by doing 100 push-ups and 50 sit-ups every day for a week. If she can do that, he'll train her with a sword. Alicia, not bothered by the challenge, confidently accepts. Later, back in the library, Alicia realizes that besides working on her physical strength, she also needs to learn magic. The William family, being one of the 5 noble houses, is known for their skill in dark magic, and Alicia knows she must master it too. In this world, magic consists of elements like darkness, light, water, wind, and fire. However, when Alicia looks for books on magic in the library, she can't find any. So she shifts her focus to learning about plants, medicinal herbs, and other things outside of magic. Alicia then throws herself into physical training, managing to do 50 push-ups on her first try, even though it's really hard for her. Still, she stays determined and keeps going because she wants to learn sword fighting and get closer to her goal of becoming the greatest villainess. The next morning, Alicia eagerly continues her training and is surprised to find that the exercises feel much easier. She thinks this new world might have something to do with her sudden improvement. Before long, she can do 500 sit-ups and 300 push-ups without any trouble. However, Alicia can't help but wonder why the original Alicia, the character from the game she used to play, was never able to achieve anything like this. The next day at breakfast, Alicia's family is still confused by her sudden change in behavior. They're worried about how early she's been waking up and her newfound discipline, so they start asking her questions. But Alicia quickly dodges them, saying it's a secret, and rushes off. In the courtyard, Alicia gets ready for her first day of sword training. As she walks, she notices a young man with fiery red hair, Lord Eric, whose family, the Harson family, specializes in fire magic. She also meets Lord Finn, a young man with golden hair who uses light magic and represents the Curtis family. Then there's a young man with green hair, Lord Gale, who specializes in forest magic. Finally, Lord Duke, the crown prince with blue hair who uses wind magic, joins them. He's the only son of the royal family and has a special presence compared to the others. Realizing this is her chance to make an impression, Alicia confidently approaches her older brother. The other young men notice her and are surprised by her beauty and graceful behavior, especially for someone her age. Alicia greets them all with perfect manners, determined not to appear as an ill-mannered child. The group is shocked at how different she seems from the rumors they had heard, but they also notice her unpredictable nature remains. Eager to start training, Alicia asks her brother to begin. But her brother, ever doubtful, reminds her that she can only start sword training if she completed all her exercises every day. Alicia, full of confidence, insists that she completed all the exercises. Her brother, still doubtful, is about to dismiss her when Alicia, feeling frustrated, grabs his sword. She kicks a tree, makes an apple fall, and slices it in half with impressive speed and precision. Stunned by her skill, her brother is finally convinced and agrees to start training her. A year later, Alicia is still deep into her sword training, practicing tirelessly. Her brother had taught her that the key to mastering swordsmanship is endurance, being able to carry and swing the sword for hours. Even though the routine is repetitive and boring, Alicia stays focused, driven by her goal to become the greatest villainess in history. She thinks to herself that without this ambition, she would have probably gotten bored long ago. During this time, Prince Duke has been visiting more often, and it seems he's developed feelings for Alicia. One day, he asks her why she trains so hard in swordsmanship. Alicia casually replies that she wants to have a strong grip, not revealing her true goal of becoming the strongest villainess. Later, Alicia's older brother gives the prince a book and teases him, asking why he's been visiting so much lately. At first, they think he's coming for the books, but soon it's clear to everyone that the prince has developed admiration, if not affection, for Alicia. The scene then shifts to a formal meeting between the noble families, including Alicia's father, Lord Arnold. He discusses the worsening situation in the village of L, explaining how it has become almost impossible to live there. The Duke expresses concern and says that aid was sent as quickly as possible, assuming the villagers would appreciate it. However, Arnold dismisses the Duke's concern, saying that Lana is known as a village of criminals. The Duke then changes the topic, saying their real focus should be the Golden Rose, a symbol of hope for the kingdom. The other noble families agree, adding that, as one of the 5 great noble houses, they should focus on bigger issues in the realm. Later, one of the lords mentions that his son Finn wishes for Lady Alicia to visit their estate. Arnold responds by saying he has already told her not to cause any trouble. The conversation then turns to how much Alicia has changed. The lords recall how she used to be selfish and uncaring, but now she's well-mannered and more mature. Arnold notes that about a year ago, she started spending most of her time in the library, and even he doesn't know what caused this sudden transformation. As the discussion goes on, Finn thanks Alicia for attending his tea party and mentions that King Albert will be joining them as a special guest. With the doors open, Alicia finds herself in the company of all the heirs of the 5 noble families, which makes her realize that this gathering is no ordinary tea party. Finn soon expresses concern about the king's late arrival, but the others reassure him that the king will be there soon. While waiting, Alicia notices a map and remembers from the game she used to play that her character, Alicia, was exiled to a foreign country by the end of the story. She begins to wonder if this fate is inevitable, as the events seem to be unfolding much faster than she expected. When the king finally arrives, Alicia is caught off guard, unsure why he would come. To her surprise, the king asks for her opinion on the current state of their kingdom. Although she feels nervous, Alicia gives a thoughtful answer. She explains that while the kingdom of Dorcas is powerful, it's not really a good nation. She points out that most of the wealth is held by the nobility, creating a huge gap between the rich and the poor. In places like Lana Village, many people can barely afford basic necessities, which could easily lead to a rebellion. The king agrees that the economy needs improvement and asks Alicia for her ideas on how to fix it. Alicia suggests using the nearby city of Kala and its gold mines. But instead of taking the mines by force, she proposes helping Kala gain independence. This way, they can avoid conflict while building strong trade relations. The king quickly understands that Alicia's plan is to indirectly benefit by supporting Kala's independence, ensuring a future trade advantage. Impressed by her response, the king leaves, satisfied with their conversation. As he departs, his assistant mentions that they have also located the Golden Rose, a symbol of great importance. Later, Alicia is happily enjoying a table full of sweets when Duke, who has been watching her, approaches. He gives her a belated birthday gift, a necklace with a small diamond. Alicia thanks him and promises to take good care of it, though she quietly wonders why he gave her such a valuable gift. In another scene, the king is discussing the discovery of the Golden Rose with his advisors. He explains that when his only daughter was born, a rare rose bloomed, leading people to believe she was destined to become the saint, a figure meant to guide the kingdom toward peace. This legendary saint is always linked to a special rose. Now, with both a blue rose blooming for Duke and a golden rose connected to a mysterious girl, it seems 2 people are destined to shape the future of the kingdom. The king recognizes that tough times are coming, as the legend says the saint must unite with a member of the royal family to guide the kingdom's destiny. The scene then returns to Alicia, who is reflecting in her palace. She resolves that if Duke ever falls in love with the heroine and asks her to step aside, she won't. Alicia is determined to carve her path as a villainess, one who will be remembered in history. This wraps up the first episode of I'll Become a Villainess, who goes down in history recap. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for watching. Alicia studies a map in the library and notices the village of Lona is nearby, just across the forest. Curious to explore, as she only knows about Lona's struggles from books, she decides to see it for herself. Knowing her father wouldn't approve, she sneaks out at night. Disguised, she ventures into the dark forest, feeling scared but reassured by her magic. She soon finds and passes through the village's magical barrier, where she is immediately struck by a foul smell and sees a homeless person, shocked by the harsh reality. She worries about her noble status being discovered when suddenly a man approaches, asking why she's there. Though he's a stranger, she feels warmth from him, and he invites her to his home since it's late. Will apologizes to Alicia for not being able to offer her a drink. He introduces himself and immediately recognizes her as a noble, noting subtle clues like her breathing and scent. He explains that he once worked at the royal palace but was exiled after a conflict with someone of higher status, which cost him his sight. Alicia feels saddened by his story and is moved by his wisdom when he explains that history is studied to make today better than yesterday, and that knowledge is only valuable if it improves the future. Alicia shares her ambition to become the greatest villain in history, and though Will admits to harboring some resentment toward nobles, he feels hope that someone from high society might finally understand him. Before leaving, Alicia promises to return, expressing her desire to continue their newfound connection. 2 years pass, and during that time, Alicia continued her studies, practiced sword fighting and frequently visited Will in the village. One day, her brothers invited her to visit the city, and she agreed. While there, she mentioned that her brother Albert and some other boys had enrolled in the Magic Academy, where the heroine was also going to study this year. Alicia speculated that the heroine would meet the Prince Duke there, and that sparks of love would start between them. They eventually visited a shop that sold plants, where Alicia introduced herself to the owner, Paul, as Henry's little sister. Paul explained that his shop mostly carried rare medicinal herbs and herbal teas. He shared that he came from a family of forest magic users, which surprised Alicia. Paul clarified that he was a lower-ranked noble, and that he had opened the shop to help people with his knowledge of plants, which he found fascinating for their healing abilities. Paul picked up an herb, and Alicia immediately recognized it as Joja. She explained that adding a small amount of it could reduce high fevers quickly, calling it a unique and valuable plant just like she had read about in her books. Impressed, Paul commented on her knowledge, asking if she had an interest in plants. Alicia replied with a haughty tone, saying she needed to know these things for her studies, keeping up her villainous act. But Paul just laughed, amused by her response. Alicia considers why Paul didn't react negatively to her arrogance and concludes he must have a big heart. She becomes even more determined to study the proper behavior of a villainess. Later, Alicia and her brothers spend time with Prince Duke in the lounge, where they talk about their recent trip to the city. The Duke feels left out and is upset they went without him, expressing a desire to join next time. He asks Alicia what she wishes to do, and she thinks about testing her sword training skills. However, her father and brothers have consistently opposed her on this matter. The Duke suggests that her brother should allow her to try, but her brother insists that Alicia is too young and, as a girl, should not engage in such activities. Alicia challenges this by stating that gender should not determine what she can or cannot do, demanding a reasonable explanation for their decision. Her brother dismisses her argument, making it clear that his decision is final and she won't be allowed to train. Frustrated, Alicia declares that she will not return until she is given a valid reason, storming off with a sense of pride at her villainous attitude. While walking through the palace, Alicia overhears her brother discussing her stubbornness with their father, acknowledging that continually refusing her requests might eventually push her to act on her own. Her father expresses concern about revealing the true reasons behind their restrictions. Alicia confronts them and demands an explanation, but her father gently reassures her that, although she is his beloved daughter, she is still young. He promises to explain everything once she enters the academy at age 15. Though reluctantly, Alicia agrees and leaves. After she departs, her father expresses concern about her remarkable sword skills, which exceed typical abilities for someone her age. He worries that once Alicia takes the official test, it will be challenging to keep her talents hidden. His hope is for her to lead a normal, ordinary life away from the burdens of her abilities. Later, Alicia is lying on the couch, reflecting on her desire to become the greatest villainess. Realizing that doing nothing will not help, she decides to visit Will and share her concerns with him, hoping for guidance. She heads to the dark forest for her first daytime visit to Lona Village. As she walks through the village, Alicia encounters a scene of poverty and hardship. She notices two people quarreling and many villagers struggling to afford basic necessities like food and water. Alicia realizes she didn't know how bad things were in the village because she had only visited at night. She sees a child lying on the ground as a man approaches and kicks him hard, with enough force to be fatal. Alicia is about to step in, but Will grabs her, reminding her that he warned her not to come during the day. Holding her firmly, he insists they leave despite her protests about the child. He tells her to focus on her own safety first, and they head back home. That night, she returns to the village and enters Will's house, surprised to find him beside the bed of the same child from earlier. She asks how he saved the child, and Will explains he did what he could, but the child is still weak and feverish. He shares that there is no medical care in the village and that this boy, only 6 years old, is an orphan whose parents were killed. Will has been taking in orphans and caring for them, noting that the boy is incredibly smart and could have a bright future if given the right education. However, in a village filled with exiled criminals, there's little hope for such a future, as even children are often treated as criminals from birth. Will tells Alicia not to blame herself for what happened. As Alicia returns home, she reflects on how different her life is. She wonders why she was born into a life of comfort with supportive family and educational opportunities, while others have such a difficult existence. She questions if there's really nothing she can do, even with her privileges. She tells herself that saving people is what a heroine would do, not a villainess. She feels disappointed in herself for being too scared to act, even though she believes she's the strongest. Determined, she vows to become the greatest villain in history. The next morning, Alicia visits the plant seller, Paul, and asks for Joja, an herb that helps with fevers. He inquires if someone is ill, and after she explains, he gives her some as a gift, hoping she'll return to his shop. At night, Alicia visits the little boy and her old friend Will. He tells her that while the boy's wounds haven't fully healed, her help has kept him alive. Will thanks her, but Alicia feels frustrated, saying that she feels powerless. She realizes that despite her efforts to become the greatest villainess, she needs to be able to act when it truly matters. Determined, she vows to dedicate all her energy to her studies and work harder to become a legendary villainess. The next morning, Alicia heads to the library, intent on mastering magic to make herself stronger. As she declares this, a magical aura surrounds her, and a hidden section of the library suddenly appears, filled with magic books. Amazed, she starts exploring this new section, realizing that magic has different levels. She learns that reaching levels above 50 requires the power of the 5 magical families, and the highest recorded level is 100. In one part of the game, both Prince Duke and the heroine even surpassed level 100. Alicia acknowledges that although the villain character was meant to be weaker, she won't let that limit her potential. She places a book on the floor and tries to make it float by channeling her magical energy through her fingertips. As she concentrates, the book begins to rise, and Alicia is thrilled to see it floating. But suddenly, the book falls and hits her, reminding her that she still has a lot to learn. Excited, she continues her training. After a few days, Alicia has mastered the ability to move objects in the library, achieving level 5 magic. Proudly, she feels a sense of accomplishment, but she also realizes she's drained and has a headache from using so much magical energy. Alicia's father informs her that the king has arrived and wants to speak with her. The king explains that he wishes to hear her thoughts and has brought his son along, knowing he's interested in meeting her as well. Alicia greets the king, noticing that all 5 noble family heads are present, and wonders if this is a sign of recognition. The king surprises her by asking if she loves the kingdom, then follows up with a question about its organization. Alicia expresses her dislike for the noble ranking system, saying it often puts unqualified people in power. She clarifies she doesn't mean all nobles, but points out that magical power and political authority are not the same. Her blunt criticism upsets some, while Duke is shocked. The king then asks if she would be okay losing her noble status, to which Alicia responds that she would, calling it disgraceful to secure her status at others' expense. The king notes that she is a unique girl. Afterward, feeling exhausted, Alicia wonders if she answered well, then collapses from a fever. Duke takes her to her room, and when she wakes up, he asks her to take some medicine. After recovering from her fever, Alicia is feeling healthy again thanks to the medicine. As she wakes up, she wonders to herself, what did Prince Duke do for me? Does he see me as a sister, or is he just a flirt? Then Alicia decides to go outside and now focus on becoming wicked. She says to herself, I'll sneak into the Magic Academy. Alicia starts walking, but soon finds herself lost in what feels like a maze of gardens. This place is so big, I can't even reach the academy building, she says, feeling frustrated. She keeps sneaking around until she spots some workers. She considers asking for directions, but worries they might kick her out if they find out she's just a kid. Just then, a girl appears from behind and asks, Are you lost? She introduces herself as Liz Cather, a student there. Alicia is surprised by the unfamiliar last name and says, Cather, I don't know of any family by that name. Liz then replies that her family just runs a bakery in town. She's amazed, thinking this must be Heroine, even though she expected her to be from a common family. Liz, in turn, is surprised by Alicia's appearance and hair color. They introduce themselves, share a laugh, and Liz smiles, wishing that they could become close friends and stand side by side in the future. Come on, Alicia, tell me where you want to go, Liz says, smiling. Alicia is surprised by Liz's smile, which seems angelic, and thinks about how everyone must love her. They reach the school building, and Liz tells some nearby students that she found the lost little girl. But when she turns around, Alicia is gone. We then see Alicia hiding and watching from a distance. At that moment, Prince Duke arrives, and Liz tells him about the little girl she found. Meanwhile, Alicia sneaks into the building. Since classes have already started, she thinks no one will notice her. She's excited because the academy has the best resources and facilities for studying magic, open to everyone, no matter their background. Alicia feels thrilled, thinking about growing up and joining the academy someday. She sees a sign and tries to read it. Inside a classroom, some girls are discussing a very smart little girl who has been solving difficult problems. They say she has dark hair and looks about 10 years old. Everyone wonders who she is and bets on whether Alicia will outshine Liz with her intelligence. The scene shifts to Alicia finally arriving home. She overhears her father talking with Mr. Joan about Liz, mentioning that she is very dangerous. Just then, her father realizes Alicia is eavesdropping, and Mr. Joan asks her, How much of that conversation did you hear? Perhaps I should erase your memory entirely. He then uses his magical powers, which frightens Alicia. She quickly responds, Okay, I won't tell anyone that Liz has extraordinary and supernatural abilities. But sir, she didn't seem like an evil person, and I don't think she poses a threat to the region, so there's no need to worry about her. When asked if she met Liz, Alicia only says it was a hunch and doesn't reveal that they actually met. She then tries to excuse herself, saying, "I think it's time for me to sleep now. I should go to bed." The scene transitions to Alicia in her room practicing magic spells. She has made a lot of progress and can now control her magic with precision and strength. At that moment, her brother enters and tells her Liz wants to meet you. Alicia agrees to meet her, as she likes Liz very much. The scene shifts again to a gathering where Alicia plans to share her thoughts and ideas. She suddenly recalls a key event in the story where Prince Duke and Liz become closer. As the Villainess, she can't just sit by and let this happen. She wonders if she should challenge Liz, seeing her as a rival. Her pride as the Villainess surfaces, and she decides to openly declare that only she, not Liz, is worthy of Prince Duke. At that moment, Liz speaks to Alicia, expressing her happiness that Alicia is putting in so much effort to help them come up with good ideas. Alicia was angry because Liz had left a positive impression on her and she wanted to annoy her in some way. So Alicia said, "I heard you can use elemental magic. I want you to put on a magic display on stage." Liz agreed, saying it was a great idea and everyone was sure it would impress the audience. Alicia grew even more frustrated because Liz agreed so easily to any suggestion. Then Liz asked if Alicia would join her on stage. Alicia replied that she didn't want to because she wasn't a student at the academy. Liz reassured her, saying, "Don't worry, we can handle it." But Alicia refused again and Duke asked Liz not to pressure her, since Alicia didn't want to perform with her. Liz looked sad, thinking she might have done something to make Alicia dislike her. Alicia said, "There are always people who don't get along, so we don't need to force ourselves to be friends." Liz replied, "If we talk more, we'll become close friends. I'm sure of it." Henry then jumped in, saying, "Liz is right. You can't decide you don't get along with someone without getting to know them first." They spend the rest of the day chatting about random topics, but Alicia finds Liz a bit boring since she asks a lot of generic questions to keep the conversation going. Alicia uses magic to pick up a flower vase and gives it to Liz, telling her the daisies suit her because they represent sincerity and trust. The boys are shocked that Alicia can already use magic at just 10 years old, and they start to suspect she might be special. Albert orders Alicia to return to her room, leaving her confused as she thought Liz was the one with special powers. Later, Liz thanks Alicia for the flowers, saying daisies are her favorite. Alicia then visits Will, who explains that most people can only use magic after turning 13. He tells her about someone who had great magical talent but lost their powers after trying a powerful spell that went wrong. He advises Alicia not to rush her training. Just then, Gil, a boy who had been sick, wakes up. Will introduces Alicia to him, saying she helped prepare medicine for him. But Gil ignores her. Alicia, thinking of how Liz would handle the situation with kindness, instead tells Gil he might as well be dead if he refuses to talk to people. Gil gets angry and throws a pillow at her. Alicia cleans it up with her magic and tells him she's determined to keep him alive as long as he has the will to live. She offers to help him leave the village if he wants, and when Gil asks why, Alicia tells him that she sees his potential. She calls herself a villain, but Will laughs, saying she's actually kind-hearted. Gil thanks her for the medicine and promises to repay her. Meanwhile, the heads of the noble families meet, and one of them wonders if Alicia might be the true saint, but the king thinks it's Liz because of her ability to use all magical elements. However, he orders two people, John and Arnold, to keep an eye on Alicia or she might lose control of her powers. Later, Albert tells Alicia that Liz's magic went out of control while practicing for the performance. Alicia wonders if Liz can still use magic, and Albert explains that the teachers helped bring her magic back under control. He asks Alicia if she had predicted this, but she denies it, saying she just wants to compete fairly with Liz. 3 years later, Alicia meets the king after being allowed to enroll in the Magic Academy. She reveals that she can now cast very powerful spells, impressing the king. He grants her permission to attend the academy, but asks her to keep an eye on Liz. That marks the end of today's animerecap. If you enjoyed the video and want more of it, please support the channel by leaving a like and subscribe. Let's help us reach a current goal of 10K subscribers.